Hello everyone, welcome to another Wildrift character guide. Today we are going to be going over Ornn. In this video, we will dive into Ornn's abilities, playstyle, builds, tips and tricks to help you dominate the Rift with this powerful champion. Whether you're a beginner looking to learn the basics or a seasoned player aiming to take your Ornn gameplay to the next level, this guide has got you covered. Let's begin. Ornn is a powerful tank champion with the ability to purchase items outside of base for himself and his teammates, making him a valuable asset to any team. Ornn by no means is a solo carrying champion, but the utility and crowd control he brings to the table makes him incredibly useful in any team comp. To start, let's talk about Ornn's abilities. His passive Living Forge allows him to purchase items anywhere on the map at levels 7, 10 and 14. This gives Ornn a significant advantage in the laning phase and for his team during crucial moments. Additionally, he also gains 7 to 22% bonus stats from HP and defensive items, making every defensive item he buys even more valuable. To use this passive effectively, you should be roaming the map and purchasing items near your allies to give them stacks of Living Forge so they can buy important items without needing to recall during important objectives or pushes. Ornn's Q, Volcanic Rupture, is your main poke ability and space creator. It has a powerful slow and creates terrain that can sometimes disrupt the enemy's pathing as they attempt to flee or fight in choke points. Use this ability to farm in lane and to set up your other abilities. Next, Ornn's W, Bellows Breath, is where the bulk of Ornn's damage is going to come from. Ornn stomps forward for a short duration, dealing max health magic damage, which applies a debuff known as Brittle. When a target is brittle, any hard crowd control effects on the target have their duration increased by 30%. When Ornn lands an attack on a brittle target, he consumes the debuff to deal additional max health damage and knock them back. This counts as an immobilizing effect, so it can be paired with certain items to increase the amount of burst damage Ornn can deal. More on that later. Ornn's E ability, Searing Charge, is his main crowd control tool and main engage outside of his ultimate. It scales off of Ornn's defensive items and functions as both an engage and escape tool. This ability's cooldown gets reduced when it collides with Ornn's Q, so if you want the ability to be up as frequently as possible, try to slam into your Q as much as possible, unless going into other terrain is more valuable for the situation. Lastly, Ornn's ultimate, Call of the Forge God, summons a large elemental that applies brittle and slows the target. Upon recast, Ornn can control the direction the elemental will travel. The first enemy hit is knocked up for 1 second, and additional enemies are knocked up for half the time, reapplying brittle to all foes hit. This ability is one of the best engage moves in the game, if can be cast from a distance and travels very far, and because it applies brittle any hard crowd control, dealt by your teammates will last even longer, helping to secure kills easier. You should always look to use this move to initiate a team fight, or to help your teammates lock down a target, or to scramble the enemy team formation as they try to dodge the ram. Don't be reluctant to use this in your all-in combo, which can deal massive max health damage when combined with your other abilities, which we will cover down the line. Moving on to items, Ornn is an ability-based champion. He relies heavily on his skill combos to deal damage, and his biggest weakness is his lack of overall DPS. To make up for that, I recommend items that can deal a considerable amount of damage even while your abilities are on cooldown. Items such as Titanic Hydra, Searing Crown, or Sunfire Aegis. Titanic Hydra provides great wave clear for Ornn, and the damage of the shockwave greatly increases his damage versus champions and your Q ability. Searing Crown does a consistent % amount of HP damage as long as you're auto-attacking or landing abilities, which helps Ornn when he wants to deal additional damage, either from afar with his Q or when he goes all in. Sunfire Aegis is good for continuous damage outside of your abilities. I highly recommend trying to fit at least 2 of these items into your builds to greatly increase your DPS. On the defensive side, Dawn Shroud, Thornmail, and Amaranth Twin Guard are some of the best options for keeping Ornn alive or dealing even more damage to the enemy. Dawn Shroud deals bonus damage when you immobilize enemy champions. That includes when they are inflicted with brittle and get knocked back, or when they are knocked up with your E. Thornmail is just an all-around good item to always run due to the reflect and anti-heal damage, and Amaranth will further bolster your defenses with the passive scaling. Next, runes. Ornn's best runes come from the Resolve tree. His best main rune is by far Grasp of the Undying. His best secondary runes are Courage of the Colossus, Second Wind, and Overgrowth. If facing a hard CC comp, you can opt to switch Overgrowth with Perseverance. The best secondary rune tree is the Inspiration tree, where you should always run the Demolish rune. For spells, Flash and Ghost are my top recommendations. You can choose to go Ignite instead of Ghost if you want to trade mobility for a bit of extra damage and possibly secure a kill on a low HP target. In the early game, you'll always want to start your Q. It's your best poke ability, it deals a decent amount of damage, and it's on a short cooldown. If you don't have a winning matchup, you should use your Q to farm minions and poke the enemy. If they have sustain, then just focus on getting your items and anti-heal. If you have the advantage, once you hit your level 3 power spike, you can start going for your max burst combos. First throw your Q to slow the target, followed by W to apply brittle. Then finish by slamming into your Q with your E ability to deal the most amount of max HP damage possible and reducing its cooldown. After this combo is executed, you should be able to get a Grasp proc before you retreat. Then you should just look for opportunities to do the combo again, whittling the opponent down. I recommend maxing your Q first, then your E, and finally your W. In the mid-game, typically after you've taken the enemy's first tower, you should be rotating around the map and playing near teammates, grant your teammates stacks of Living Forge, and look to catch targets out with your slow and follow-up with your knock-up. Your role at this point is to pressure other lanes and snag their tier 1 towers if they haven't already gone down. Towards the late game, your only job is to control the enemy team and create space and opportunities with your QE combo. Always try to have your ultimate available when objectives are up. It can be the difference between losing or turning the fight around. Some useful tips to keep in mind. Ornn's W gives him immunity to all crowd control effects for the duration of the cast. Use this to prevent yourself from getting CC'd by the enemy and potentially turn a situation around. Ornn's ultimate recast can proc the bonus magic damage, proc of Brittle. Use this to your advantage to achieve as much damage as possible in the shortest amount of time. To achieve Ornn's highest damage combo, you have to be within melee distance of your target. Cast your ult, then immediately cast W followed by your Q. When your ram reaches you, recast to proc the first instance of brittle damage, then cast your E into your Q pillar to proc the second instance of brittle damage. If you do everything correctly, it should look like this. Good matchups for Ornn include champs such as Sion, Renekton, Teemo, Jax, Nasus, and Malphite. Ornn can do decently well against Yun, but also poorly at the same time. He's a 50-50 depending on the skills of the players. Bad matchups for Ornn include champs such as Camille, Fiora, Olaf, Urgot, Aatrox, and Vladimir. These champions can easily outdamage and outsustain Ornn in the lane. Mastering Ornn takes practice and game knowledge, but with the right strategies and teamwork, you can dominate the Rift with this powerful tank champion. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you learned something new and subscribe to stay in the loop for more Wildrift guides and tips. If you have a request for a champion you'd like to see featured next, let me know in the comment section down below. See you in the next one.